Welcome back, Solcana athletes, for the ultimate workout of the 2023 Solcana Invitational. It's event number 5. Ultimate in this case just means the last one. It is an 8-minute AMRAP consisting of 8 burpees, 8 single arm dumbbell clusters, you guessed it, 8 toe above hip or toe to bar. Let's talk about the movement standards. Burpees. For the play category, you can substitute literally anything you like. Burpee tends to be chest to the floor, but we can do an elevated sprawl, stepping out, stepping back up, using a bench. You can also do sprawl to the floor. You can jump if you want. You can jump out at the bottom. All of those count in the play category. For all the competitive categories, the movement standard is the same. We have a 10-pound plate. We must go chest to the floor, so just hips or just sort of midsection to the floor will not count. But we can step back or jump back, step forward, jump forward, and then we must end on our 10-pound plate, standing fully upright, and again we can step or jump onto that plate. So one possible way to meet the movement standards is stepping back, chest touches the floor, warming back up, stepping all the way up onto our plate. We must be fully standing up, hips extended on our plate. Another way to meet that movement standard would be dropping chest to the floor, jumping in, jumping up to fully standing. That would be another way to make a good rep. No reps would include not touching chest to the floor, not standing all the way up on our block. So, and as a reminder, if people are very close to the movement standard, it is okay to give them a warning and just say, hey, you need to stand up all the way, or hey, it didn't look like your chest really touched on that last one, and then no repping for very clear misses or repeated misses of the movement standard. So if someone was hopping up and they looked like this, you might give them a little warning. If someone is down and they're just doing that, that would be worth a no rep. But if they're very close, feel free to give a warning. No reps after that. Clusters. For your play category, dumbbell, great. If you prefer kettlebell, great. We could do our hang, clean. We could do a push press instead of a thruster. A cluster is a clean into a thruster, which is a front squat into an overhead press. So, for the competitive category, one dumbbell head must touch the floor for the rep to count at the start. We must hit a squat, and then we must hit an overhead position. So again, for play, you could do these in a hang. You might not necessarily be getting to full depth, and you might press out overhead, or maybe not. It's really up to you. Substitutions in the play category are welcome. For the competitive categories, sun and moon, again, we are going to hold athletes to the depth of squat that they can get to. For the planet comet categories, hips must be below knees, or the thigh bone must break parallel for the squat depth to count. And overhead doesn't necessarily have to lock out perfectly overhead, but we wouldn't count a real bent elbow as a complete overhead. So again, for the cluster to count, we do not need to stand all the way up after the dumbbell touches. We can potentially clean right into our squat, into our overhead. So we're not necessarily holding people to hip extension in their clean. So this would work, but this would also work. 8 means people are probably going to do 4 on one side and then 4 on the other. So again, it's a touch, squat, overhead. That is a good rep. Not touching, not hitting squat depth, not finishing with a strong overhead. Those would all be no reps. So again, touch, squat, overhead. It's the clean, into the front squat, into the overhead for a complete thruster. Again, sun and moon, we're trying to find out what the athlete's best depth is and hold them to that. For planet, comet, hips must go slightly below knees or thigh bone slightly under parallel for that to count. Finally, the coup de grace. We've got hanging bar work. So we're introducing a toe above hip movement standard. That just means that our toe has to come above our hip slightly. So this would count if I was hanging. For the play category, you could feel free to do your hanging marches. You could do your hanging knee raises, etc. Or you could even do these standing, where you would be doing a toe above hip movement standard from a standing position. So we can hit toe above hip with a straight leg or a bent leg. It's really up to you and your hamstrings how you want to approach that. For our hanging variations, for sun and moon, it's toes above hips. We have to start from a free hang with the feet under the body, and we have to get toes above hips. Doesn't matter how we do it. And then our feet have to come all the way down below our body in order for the next rep to count. So if I was to be here, toe above hip, that second one would be a no rep. Feet have to come down underneath the body for each rep to count. And if I was doing knees getting above hips, but toes not getting above hips, that's a no rep. Or toes not quite getting above hips, also no reps. We can kip these absolutely where we're arching, toes up, and again, as much knee flexion as you want, as long as the toes are breaking the level of the hips. Those are good reps. Kipping or not kipping, as you like. That's it for those. Toes to bar, both toes must actually make contact with the bar for it to count. And again, feet have to come under the body between reps for them to count. So we can do singles where we're hanging. That counts. Doesn't matter what I do between as long as I start hanging and toes actually touch the bar. Good rep. We can cycle those together with kips. As long as both toes, both feet make contact with the bar at the same time or pretty darn close, and we come all the way down to a full hang position in between, those are good reps. All right, event number 5, 8 minutes. It's going to be great, I think.